And we have returned for another edition of Let's Play WWE 2001, or How I Would Book the Invasion. Now, I just want to take a little bit of time to explain a little bit before we get into Smackdown this week. Fact of the matter is, this past Monday night on Raw saw the actual start of the invasion, which I will talk about later on in the broadcast, right before the main event. But also, Monday night saw post-WrestleMania. Post-WrestleMania. And as you all know, the next pay-per-view after WrestleMania is Backlash. And that pay-per-view is typically rematches of WrestleMania, or the beginnings of new feuds for talent. And that will be in some cases the case at Backlash, but it'll also be the case in some cases not the case for other talent like Benoit and Angle and Austin and The Rock. Because, as you all know, at WrestleMania 17, Steve Austin went heel. In real life, of course. In my game, Austin never joined Vince McMahon. For one reason and one reason only. And maybe, just maybe, I'll elaborate on this in another video, but think about it. You're telling Steve that Steve, you're gonna join up with your longtime rival Vince McMahon, and the guy who supposedly ran you over with a car less than a year ago in Triple H, and you had a bloody feud with, whom you had a bloody feud with back less than a year ago. Actually, scratch that. I think he actually ended the feud at February 2001's edition of No Way Out. In which case, right, because the Armageddon Hell in a Cell match just took place in December. Yeah, right. But in which case, why would Austin join Hunter a month after they just ripped each other apart in a steel cage match? Why would he join him? So that's the logic. That's the logic as to why, yes, Austin will stay heel, because I think keeping Austin heel would be the best way to go about it. And not just because the game won't let me turn him babyface again without some sort of a penalty. Well, I'm gonna keep him heel for right now. I'm gonna keep him heel. Even though the game won't let me turn him babyface, I'm gonna keep him heel. But either way, I'm gonna keep him heel, but I'm gonna add a little bit more depth to his character and not just put him in the ring with Vince and Triple H, because that defies logic. What doesn't defy logic is a paranoid rattlesnake. And that's why Steve is staying heel. But everything's getting rebooked. Everything is changing. Nothing will be the same as it was for the invasion in real life, because I think every facet of that angle was wrong. But look it up. The invasion started on May 23rd. The week before, Triple H got injured with his torn quadricep. Is it possible that plans changed? Well, in this one, Triple H doesn't get hurt. Hopefully. Plans won't have to change. The invasion will have a slow burn, not a quick start and finish. But either way, we kick off SmackDown with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon talking about The Undertaker and his win at WrestleMania and what that means now for the game. And how Triple H says he is not ready to move on from The Undertaker, and he wants to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that The Undertaker's win was a fluke. And now we move to the first match as Billy Gunn jumps in the ring and gets his first win of the new year against Jerry Lynn, with Billy Gunn finally netting a victory here on SmackDown. And now we head backstage into the boss's office as Kurt Angle, Edge, and Christian and Edge holding the WWF Tag Team titles. And Kurt Angle in tow walk into Vince's office and ask Vince if he knows what he's doing when it comes to booking or allowing William Regal to give Shawn Stasiak and Hugh Morris tryout matches next week on Monday Night Raw, and Chavo Guerrero a tryout match at the request of Chavo's Uncle Eddie. And Vince looks around. Kurt, you've been WWF champion. You two are the WWF World Tag Team Champions. You know what it takes to win. And you know what it's like to crush your competition. I crushed WCW. I grinded the dust in my hand. But something was missing. You three are WWF's finest talent. We're just helping bring some new blood into the WWF. Competition is always good. Now get out of my office. The Dudley Boys go up against Kai and Tai and get their win back following WrestleMania. And now we jump right to the match, the next match, as Perry Saturn gets Al Snow, and Perry Saturn gets the victory. See, and actually, I was surprised. I was very surprised by Kai and Tai's match against the Dudleys, and I'm actually pretty surprised with this match as well. A very good match by these two guys. Speaking of Eddie and Chavo and Vince, Eddie now walks into Vince's office. And Eddie wants to hear Vince's response to his request to get his nephew Chavo a shot in the WWF. Vince looks at Eddie. He says, Eddie, I respect your family values. I respect that you want to bring the competition into the WWF. But the one thing I don't agree with is that you think he needs a tryout. Well, it just so happens that our light heavyweight champion, Dean Malenko, needs a challenger for WWF Backlash for the WWF light heavyweight title. So, if your nephew can win his match on Raw, he will get a title shot against Dean Malenko in 3 weeks at WWF Backlash for the light heavyweight championship. How does that sound? Olale, Vince, olale. And then Vince tells him, but you have to go out there now and defend your WWF European title against Test in a rematch from WrestleMania. Eddie looks puzzled. As we go to commercial break, and then when we come back, Test is first out for the European title match, and Eddie is second. And of course, Latino Heat retains the WWF European title in his first successful title defense, this against the former champion, Test. Unfortunately, Test got injured during the match. Luckily, it had nothing to do with Eddie. And luckily, Eddie was not in any way incapacitated during the match like he was at WrestleMania. Now we head to the commissioner's office, where Chris Jericho walks in and tells Regal, "You wanted to see me?" And William says, "Yes, you have a match tonight." You have a match tonight. You have a match tonight against Kurt Angle in the main event. So get ready. The Undertaker, we go backstage. Mind you, at this point in time, Michael Cole was not commentating Smackdown just yet, because if I'm correct, Michael started commentating once King came back. That's when Michael started commentating Smackdown. At this point, Jim Ross and Paul Heyman were still commentating Smackdown together. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know down in the comment section. But either way, I think either way, Jim Ross and Paul Heyman would be a better commentary team than Michael Cole and Paul Heyman. But Michael Cole tries to get a word with The Undertaker about what Triple H said earlier tonight, and all The Undertaker said is Triple H wants to think that WrestleMania was a fluke. Well, boy, just name the time and the place, and I'll beat your ass again. And then Taker walks off as we head back to the ring and back for some women's action as Trish Stratus goes up against Jacqueline, and Trish Stratus gets the victory. And Trish Stratus actually got an 89 in-ring performance. I don't know how, because at this point, I'm pretty sure Trish is still very early in her in-ring career, so I don't know how she could be that good. Unless it may just be popularity based, which is very possible because of WWE, because I'm WWE. But either way, Trish shows that she can really go in the ring and gets a solid victory over the veteran here tonight as I try and figure out who could be challenging Chyna next for the WWF Women's title. And now we head backstage as Team Team RECK, Rhino, Christian, Edge, and Kurt, whatever, are backstage in their locker room as Kurt Angle's talking about his match tonight against Chris Jericho, and Edge talks up his match against, I believe it's Bradshaw, later tonight, and how, and they still, in the privacy of their locker room, question the sanity of Vince McMahon making the decision to allow the opposition to come in and possibly gain contracts with the WWF that still referencing Chavo Guerrero and Hugh Morris, Chavo Guerrero, Hugh Morris, and Shawn Stasiak's involvement in Monday Night Raw next week in Atlanta, Georgia. Oh, sorry, it's Farouk. But either way, Edge beat Farouk in a match between one half of the Tag Team Champions and one half of the APA tonight. Two guys on the opposite ends, as Triple H lost to The Undertaker at WrestleMania and Austin won the WWF title at WrestleMania. The reason why I picked them two is because they're not the point. This is the point. Highlights of WrestleMania. This is a highlight package of the big event that took place the previous weekend in, I believe, the Houston Astrodome in Houston, Texas. And now we move to the broadcast position, where once again the matches are built up. Hugh Morris, Shawn Stasiak, one-on-one next week on Monday Night Raw for a contract with the WWE. Two of them are former WCW superstars. Hugh Morris is a former tag team and United States champion, and Shawn Stasiak is a former tag team champion with, I believe, Sean O'Haire. And it's very possible that Hugh Morris is actually a former tag team champion with Chavo Guerrero from their days in the Misfits in Action. But also, a multiple-time Cruiserweight champion is Chavo Guerrero, and Chavo has the opportunity next week on Raw to get his shot, to punch his ticket to Backlash, and not only get a contract, but a WWF Light Heavyweight title shot against Dean Malenko in 3 weeks' time at Backlash. So all that and more will happen as the invasion continues to get going this time around. Apparently this game penalizes you for not having your main event be some way tied with a hot storyline, which makes sense, somewhat, but I still get pissed off anytime it happens because it shouldn't. But either way, we got a 79 rating for the main event, which isn't good enough for us to keep from losing popularity, which is very unfortunate. And by the way, at the end of the show, I have a little bit of a surprise for you. So, bear with me. William Regal, and following the match, following Dave Taylor's distraction, Kurt Angle gets the win as a way to protect the Intercontinental Champion. William Regal attacks Chris Jericho following the match, and like I said, I knew just from the main event that we were going to lose popularity, and we lost popularity in 18 regions, but we gained popularity in 10, so hopefully I'm right, and that means that we only lost popularity in 8, because 18 minus 10 is 8, so losing popularity in 8 regions isn't as bad as losing popularity in 18. Oh yeah, and by the way, this is the surprise. The show continues. Billy Gunn, Undertaker doesn't think too highly of Billy Gunn, and Kurt Angle doesn't think too highly of Chavo Guerrero. For those of you who don't know, if you want to, you can go here, click multi-advanced multi-advance, and then you could advance multiple days or advance to your next show, so you don't have to sim one by one, because right now I'm saying that we are doing both Monday Night Raw and Thursday Night SmackDown in this episode. Why? 2 reasons. One, because of the amount of time that sorry, I thought I saw something on my finger. Because of the amount of time that I plan, because of the length of time, I should say, because of the length of time that I plan to do this Let's Play series, I thought once a month I could mix it up and do an hour or so long video just to, I guess combine things and just mix things up from the norm, because as far as I'm concerned, the norm would probably be okay, we do Raw, we do SmackDown, we do Raw, we do SmackDown, we do Raw, we do SmackDown, etc., etc., etc. But instead, I'm doing Raw and SmackDown. What do you want to be involved with, Bob? The Intercontinental title. Huh. Go figure. Alright. Well, it's kind of coincidental that William Regal actually attacked. You know what, I'm just going to auto-push, which affects the push of everyone instead of just affecting the push of the one person that, that wanted to be pushed, let's put it that way. Or that thought he should be pushed, and that being William Regal. But either way, here we go with this week's episode of Monday Night Raw. Oh shit, we got... Okay, we're going to the Palace in Auburn Hills, Michigan. The funny thing is, this is where WCW did a lot of their pay-per-views. So it's kind of funny to think... Okay, he farted. Really? That's an incident? Billy Gunn was brought before Wrestler's Court, accused of moaning about stuff all the time and bumming out everybody else. And The Rock sentenced him to buy drinks and cheer up for everyone, for him to cheer up and to buy drinks for everyone after the show. Austin, I'm sure Austin would buy drinks, and he didn't even have to be brought up on charges, or he wouldn't even have to be brought up on charges. So now we bring in. So now I'm gonna bring in. You know what? I'm not gonna bring him in because of the fact that Devon Storm has the WCW background. What I was thinking about doing was bringing in someone and having them face bringing in someone and having them face Big Show for the hardcore title as like an open challenge, and instead of having somebody on the roster get fed to him, I would have somebody off the roster get fed to him instead. Well, I also just want to say this: if there was any doubt, Booker T, Diamond Dallas Page, as you saw, Bryan Adams and Brian Clark. I think Bryan Adams is an upper mid-carder. Billy Kidman, as you saw, Chuck Palumbo, Hugh Morris, Sean O'Hare, Mark Jindrak. The point of me showing this off is that all of them are on the roster. But it's just the fact that all of them are not. It's just the fact that all of them are not usable right now because they don't fit. Because they don't fit. You know, they don't fit. They don't fit the definition of, okay, I want to bring, one guy in at a time rather than everybody in at once. You know? Because why am I going to bring everybody in at once? That's stupid. Especially because a lot of the WWE audience has never seen WCW superstars. Has never seen guys like Chavo Guerrero. Has never seen Hugh Morris and Sean Stasiak. They've never seen them. The reason why Chavo's going against Jarrell Clark is technically Chavo's competing for a contract. So why not give an opportunity to a guy like Jarrell Clark as well to compete for a contract? And as far as Hugh Morris and Sean Stasiak competing at the beginning of the show, well, how about we do this? How about we have a hot angle kick off the show? Stupid Skype. To protect us from the opening match, because I know what you're gonna say, and I know what you're probably thinking, that this has nothing to do with that, this is blah 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 blah. No. Well, what I mean is, you're probably thinking that this match should not happen. That the match should not happen because of the fact that, number one, it's two heels, and number two, the crowd's going to completely crap on the match because of the fact that it's two heels. You're right, the crowd is completely going to crap on the match. But what I'm going to say is this. That's why you have a hot angle in between to deter the crowd from crapping on the match. And you have a match be announced. The Rock and Chris Benoit teaming up against Kurt Angle and Triple H. Oh wait, no. This goes down, that goes up. Where is it? There it is. Well, wait, is Benoit a babyface? He is. Alright, so I'll have... Come on, load. Thank you. I'll have Eddie, Chris... I'll have Eddie and Chris wishing Chavo luck for his match against Jarrell Clark. Saying that because he's a Guerrero, he'll do fine. Once again, I moved the wrong segment. Okay, now we're good. And I know what you're going to say. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Don't worry. The Chavo Guerrero match is not going to happen there. The Chavo Guerrero match is going to happen later on in the show. I also realize now that I could have had La Parka go against Chavo, but I totally forgot La Parka was here, and the guy needs a match. The only reason why I'm going back and changing it is because of the fact that I feel like I need at least somewhat of a good match and I am not very confident in Hugh Morris versus Sean Stasiak or Jarrell Clark versus Chavo Guerrero to possess that good match. Okay. This is over. That's still going, and gonna get started again. Okay, all of them are still going. I know, the RTC one kinda seems redundant. You know, the redundancy is there, but I know, I gotta go back. I'll go back. Bubba, Devon, Edge, Christian, Matt Hardy. I was one off. Okay, now The Undertaker, The Rock, highlights of WrestleMania. You know, normally in the old game, this would not count towards the rating. But now, because of the fact that they added the freestyle segment ability, it can count towards the rating. Because when it didn't count towards the rating, it was a minor segment, and that's why it didn't count towards the segment. But now it's a major segment, so it will count towards the segment. Matt Hardy is going up against Christian in this one. I do realize that there is basically only one match tonight that I've decided, but that just shows how, I guess you could say, unimportant the rest of the show is. But I'm just gonna book this match. They're not a tag team. Kurt Angle and Triple H versus The Rock and Chris Benoit. Okay. The Rock and The Undertaker. Angle lost last week, correct? Angle was in the main event on Raw, and then in the main event on Smackdown as well. But to be fair, Benoit got the win back. Okay. And this is also the second time Chris has lost to Kurt in less than a month. You know what? I could give Hunter the win after his big loss at WrestleMania. All the guys will be in eventually. It's just not happening right now. Okay, now we're gonna head backstage with Willie Regal going up again with Dave Taylor, and they're talking about Y2J. And how Dave Taylor feels Y2J should be defending the the WWF World Heavyweight title. Whatever. How he feels that Jericho should defend the WWF Hardcore title. I mean Intercontinental title. I apologize. I apologize. It's so insulting that they have to make me put the women in. I mean, I find it kind of annoying because I just want to put them in a regular singles match, but they keep telling me to put them in a Divas singles match because it's an eye candy match. You know what? I'm also gonna book Steve Austin. And this is going to be the start. Oh, and Gregory Helms is here, Lance Storm is here, Spike Dudley is here. Because Spike was here before, I re-signed Gangrel. Spike. 4 minutes. And then guest on color, the WWF Women's Champion, China. As now, we shall head to the beginning of Monday Night Raw. 80. Oh, sugar. I never took Benoit out of the segment. I never took Benoit out of the segments like I should have. It is official now. Hugh Morris is the first WCW employed wrestler to jump ship to the WWE, and now has his contract transferred over to a WWF contract and is officially a WWF contractually obligated competitor after his victory over Shawn Stasiak tonight. That gets him a contract in the WWE. And now we head backstage as Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero wish, while Eddie's back there strategizing with Chavo, and Benoit makes his way up to Chavo and Eddie and welcomes Chavo to the WWF and says, "See what you've been missing? You should have went with me, Eddie, and Dean, and Perry when we left. But I'm glad to see you, kid. And I wish you well in your match tonight. Hopefully we can see you facing Dean at Backlash for the lightweight title." This is promoting the supposed main event. Sub out Chris Benoit for The Undertaker, by the way. I'll explain that later. Well, basically to this point, Billy Gunn had not really Billy Gunn had not really been doing quite well. And last week on Smackdown, he got his first win in a while. And like I always tell you, wins to me matter. And that's why Val Venus got a match against Billy Gunn just to see what would happen. And just to see who would win. If you paid attention when I was booking, you knew this was going to happen beforehand, because in reality, Dean Malenko actually does need a competitor, a challenger for the light heavyweight title, not just at Backlash, just in general, and Chavo helps that. And now we have a clusterfuck in the ring between the 3 top tag teams in the WWF, and William Regal breaks up the clusterfuck by booking a match next week on Raw between the Dudleys and the Hardys, where the winners will face Edge and Christian for the WWF Tag Team titles at Backlash. And once again, for the last time, you will see a highlight package, this involving The Rock and The Undertaker. Basically disregard the people. It has nothing to do with the people. The only reason why The Undertaker and The Rock are in the segment is because of the rating. If I put, Albert and Just Incredible in the segment, it wouldn't get an 85. And it wouldn't help the show, in which case I wouldn't do it. Basically, this is a cheap way to pop the ratings. Pretty much. Okay, so now we move forward as Edge and Christian and Matt Hardy collide in a singles match just to switch things up a little bit for the top teams in WWF. And Matt Hardy gets the victory over Christian. Does this mean that Jeff and Matt may be able to get a victory over the Dudleys and advance over to the title match at Backlash to try and reclaim the WWF Tag Team titles from Edge and Christian? Or will we see the Dudleys come to Backlash, the #1 contenders? For that, you'll have to tune in next week to find that out. But we will continue this week as William Regal and Dave Taylor are talking about the events of last Thursday night on SmackDown, when Regal attacked Chris Jericho. And Regal tells Dave Taylor, and it's the first person he's told, that he is officially cleared to return to the ring and is making the match for Backlash, for the Intercontinental title, as William Regal will go one-on-one against Chris Jericho for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. And now we move forward as Big Show collides in a hardcore match against Test and Raven, and Big Show gets the victory over Test and Raven in a hardcore match to retain the hardcore title again tonight. What does the future hold for the hardcore title? Who knows? But it's like the Big Show would say at this time, I'm the hardcore champion, and I'm going to hold this title as long as I want to hold it, or until somebody gets me down to beat me for it. And even if that happen, even if you get me down, that doesn't mean you're going to win. Okay, Test can't compete in a hardcore matches, neither can the hardcore champion. But either way, we move forward following a commercial break. When we come back, you hear the very familiar music of the 9th wonder of the world, Chyna, as she's making her way down to the ring for commentary for the next match between Lita and the former champion Ivory, as Lita falls victim to the facebuster from Ivory, and Ivory gets the win, as Ivory isn't looking more and more likely that Ivory will be getting her rematch clause, or exercising her rematch clause, in 2 weeks' time at Backlash against Chyna. And this win pushes her another step forward to that regard. If you remember earlier in the video, I had mentioned something about Austin becoming a paranoid champion. Well, much like the longer videos happening every now and again, this is going to start happening every now and again too, where Austin's going to walk up on a conversation and think that somebody's talking about possibly taking away, challenging him for the WWF title and taking away his WWF championship, and Austin's going to, provoke a fight between him and it's starting with, yes, Spike Dudley. But either way, he's provoking a fight with him and Spike Dudley, and this leads to Spike versus Steve in the ring tonight, as Steve quickly dispatches of Spike Dudley. But you could see signs of paranoia and just edginess from Steve Austin, and, you know, maybe, just maybe, the crowd might start booing a little. Would you start booing Steve if he started acting, if he provoked a fight with Spike Dudley for no reason? Well, much like I said with the invasion on last episode of Raw, you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to agree with it. Because, or you don't have to like it now. But it will get better. And it will move forward. I mean, it will develop more and more and more, and I'm going to add more depth to the paranoid rattlesnake character that I'm developing for Steve Austin as the weeks go by. But this is just the start of Steve Austin's paranoia. And though this match, as you can tell, sensational, wrestling in fantastic heat, and only got an 80, this match should have gotten a lot better, but due to in-game constraints, it did not, unfortunately. And once again, we lost popularity. It increased our popularity in 9 regions, but lost its popularity in 18 regions, which is very unfortunate, because I thought we had a pretty good show, but I guess we need a 90 segment, or a couple of 90 segments, to put us over the top. Which, you know, putting Benoit on a couple talking segments isn't the best way to get a 90 talking segment. But that's what we have for this week's episode of SmackDown, which, by the way, is not going to be an hour-long video, or even a 40-minute video, because I'm not going to be recording SmackDown and Raw back-to-back every video. I will be recording them together every now and again, but not every time, partially because I just don't want to. But the other part is, the meaning for this type of video is just to mix things up. It's not the new normal. But, with that being said, tonight officially kicked off the invasion with Chavo Guerrero and Hugh Morris gaining contracts with the WWF, and you may say, how does this kick off the invasion? Do they work for WWF? Nobody said that invaders had to be hostile. They went about it the logical way. Chavo used Eddie. How did Hugh Morris and Sean Stasiak get in? My question to you is, how couldn't they? WWF has so many former agents from WCW. Johnny Ace, Arn Anderson. You know, there's probably a couple others whose names escape me because I don't remember WWF's road agent situation in 2001. But either way, they have plenty of people who could recommend them. But my friends, this is just the start of something bigger. This is just the start of an overarching story that's going to take time to develop. Just like Austin's paranoid rattlesnake character is going to take time to develop, the invasion they're both in the early stages, the very early stages of development. And we got something to look forward to as this series continues to develop and move forward. And I'm going to tell you right now that either the invasion or Austin's paranoid rattlesnake character will take a big step forward at Backlash in a couple weeks, so stay tuned for that. But I will also guarantee you that next week on Raw, the invasion will continue to take steps forward. The invasion will continue to take steps forward, starting next week on Monday Night Raw. One reason and one reason only I'm not doing it on SmackDown also. And that reason is this. I don't want to overexpose it. Because the extent of the invasion right now is Hugh Morris, Sean Stasiak, and Chavo Guerrero. That's it. Just the three of them. How could I employ all three of them and put them all three on both shows? I can't. So that's why it's only on Raw right now. It will eventually be on both shows when it develops a little more, but time is all I need. So if you're willing to invest in this series, then feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. And I hope that you're just as excited about this series as I am, and you're looking forward to the future because, well, right now it just looks disgusting. But I guarantee you, things will get better. You just gotta stay tuned. So till next time. Later.